Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. In the world of coin collecting, sometimes a single small piece of metal can hold stories of history, mystery, and unimaginable value. Imagine something so tiny, something that most people overlook every day, becoming worth millions of dollars. The 1970s 1-cent coin, a simple penny minted more than 50 years ago, has captured the fascination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters all over the world. It's a coin that most people would never glance at twice, yet in the hands of a keen-eye collector, it could mean a life-changing fortune. This story begins with a single cent, a copper coin minted in San Francisco, carrying the image of Abraham Lincoln, and ends with numbers so large they almost sound impossible. $205 million. That's the figure often whispered in the coin collecting community when people talk about the rarest and most valuable 1970s penny. But how can a coin that says 1 cent be worth that much? Let's go deep into its design, its history, its secrets, and the reason it has become a legend in the world of numismatics. When we talk about the 1970s penny, we're talking about more than just a coin. It's a piece of American history. The S stands for the San Francisco Mint, one of the United States mints responsible for producing coins during that era. In 1970, the United States was going through a time of massive change: the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, and a growing sense of transformation in culture and politics. Yet through all that, people still use coins every day, coins that carry the faces and symbols of the nation's past. The 1970 penny was part of that daily life, featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side, a design first created by Victor David Brenner back in 1909 to mark the centennial of Lincoln's birth. That design had already become iconic by 1970, Lincoln facing right, his sharp profile standing out against a smooth copper background, the word Liberty to his left, and the date 1970 with the mint mark, S, just below it on the right side. Above his head were the words "I in God we trust," and below, at the bottom edge, the word Liberty, simple, classic, and deeply symbolic of American ideals. The reverse side of the 1970 penny carried another design that had become legendary in its own right, the image of the Lincoln Memorial. This design, introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, replaced the older Whittier's design that had adorned pennies for the first half of the 20th century. The Lincoln Memorial design was created by Frank Gasparo, and it shows the majestic building in Washington, D.C., a symbol of honor, freedom, and equality. If you look closely at the back of any Lincoln Memorial cent, you can even see a tiny engraving of Lincoln's statue inside the memorial, an incredible detail that most people never notice without a magnifying glass. Above the memorial are the words United States of America, and just below that, the national motto E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. At the bottom sits the denomination, 1 cent. It's simple, clear, and timeless. Now, while billions of Lincoln Memorial cents were minted between 1959 and 2008, the 1970s penny has a very special place in the history of U.S. coinage. That's because not all 1970s pennies are the same. Some of them, quite literally, are 1 in a billion. In the coin world, the smallest differences can make the biggest impact. A tiny line, a misplaced number, or a doubling of an image can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth millions. And the 1970s penny is famous for exactly that. The 1970s double die obverse variety, one of the rarest and most sought-after errors ever discovered. This variety features a dramatic doubling of the date and the word Liberty on the front of the coin, visible even to the naked eye if you know where to look. The doubling happened during the minting process, when the die that strikes the coin accidentally imprinted the design twice, slightly out of alignment. As a result, the numbers in the date, especially the 9 and the 0, appear to have a ghost-like shadow behind them. To collectors, this kind of error is not a mistake but a miracle, something that turns an ordinary coin into a treasure. But before we go further into the specific varieties, it's worth understanding how much effort and precision goes into minting coins. Each die used to strike pennies is engraved with the year and mint mark. Back in 1970, technology wasn't as advanced as it is today, and dies were still made using mechanical methods that required multiple strikes. Each strike carried the risk of a slight shift in position, and that's how doubling could occur. For most coins, this would go unnoticed, but for the 1970s penny, the error was dramatic enough that collectors quickly identified it. Today, the 1970s double die obverse is one of the most famous varieties ever produced at the San Francisco Mint. The physical details of the coin are important too. The 1970 Lincoln cent was made primarily of copper, 95% copper and 5% zinc to be precise. This alloy gave the coin its distinctive reddish-brown tone, a color that changes over time as the copper oxidizes. The coin's diameter is 19.05 millimeters. Its thickness is about 1.52 millimeters, and its official weight is 3.11 grams. That's the standard specification for all U.S. pennies minted before 1982, after which the composition changed to a much cheaper zinc core with a thin copper coating. Because of its full copper content, the 1970s penny feels slightly heavier and has a richer tone compared to modern pennies. To the untrained eye, it might just be a normal cent, but to a collector, these tiny details make all the difference in the world. Now, why is this coin being talked about as being worth hundreds of millions of dollars? Let's look at the journey of discovery and the world of coin values. When coins are minted, millions roll out every day, and most of them go straight into circulation. They're used, spent, lost, and forgotten. But every so often, a tiny batch of coins comes out with unique characteristics, small differences, minting errors, or extremely limited runs. Collectors call these varieties, or errors, and depending on how dramatic the difference is, such coins can become worth small fortunes. The 1970s double die obverse penny became famous because of how rare it was. Out of all the 1970 San Francisco pennies minted, roughly 690 million, only a handful showed this doubling. Some estimates say fewer than 200 examples exist in high grades today. Imagine that, 200 coins out of 690 million. So when a coin that rare appears, collectors start to bid fiercely. In the world of numismatics, value is determined by several factors: rarity, demand, condition, and historical significance. The 1970s double die obverse checks all of those boxes. It's incredibly rare, collectors all over the world want it. It represents a fascinating era in minting history, and when found in pristine condition, especially in mint state or proof grades, its value skyrockets. The most pristine examples, graded by professional agencies like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, have sold for astonishing amounts at auctions. There's also another layer of fascination surrounding the 1970s penny. In addition to the double die obverse, there are also two types of 1970s proof pennies, the small date and the large date varieties. Proof coins are special coins made specifically for collectors, using polished dies and planchets to give them a mirror-like finish. The San Francisco Mint produced these proofs in limited numbers. The small date and large date varieties refer to subtle differences in how the numbers 1 and 0 in 1970 were engraved. The small date proof is considered rarer and more desirable, especially in top condition. Some collectors believe that the small date variety was part of a very limited production run, possibly due to design adjustments during early minting stages. When a coin combines a proof finish with a unique date variety, it becomes a dream find. Over the years, Many stories have circulated about lucky individuals who found one of these 1970s rarities in pocket change, coin jars, or inherited collections. Imagine discovering a single penny in an old coffee can that turns out to be worth tens of thousands, or even millions. It sounds unbelievable, yet it's happened more than once. The 1970s double-die obverse penny has been sold for tens of thousands of dollars, depending on grade. Some proof varieties, especially with unique minting characteristics, have reached prices approaching six figures. But the most sensational story in recent years is about a 1970s Lincoln cent that collectors and auction houses have valued at up to $205 million, a number that represents the extreme upper end of speculative or symbolic value, the kind of mythic figure that draws attention from across the world. It's important to understand that such enormous numbers don't appear out of nowhere. In the coin market, value can fluctuate wildly based on hype, rarity, and the sheer fascination a coin generates. When a coin is believed to be unique, truly one of a kind, it becomes priceless in the eyes of some collectors. The 1970s penny that allegedly reached $205 million in value is rumored to have had a combination of factors: a double die obverse, a small date proof strike, a near-perfect grade, and perhaps even a mysterious minting history that ties it to experimental dies. Whether or not that exact figure is realistic, it's clear that certain 1970s pennies are among the most desirable small coins ever made. Even a single cent can change lives if it's the right cent. The history behind the design gives this coin even more depth. When Victor David Brenner first created the Lincoln cent in 1909, he was inspired by Lincoln's legacy of freedom, unity, and human dignity. He wanted the coin to reflect the nobility of Lincoln's character. The portrait Brenner used was based on a photograph of Lincoln taken by Matthew Brady, one of the most famous photographers of the 19th century. That same design remained almost untouched for decades, because Americans loved it. When Frank Casparo added the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959, it completed the symbolism: Lincoln on one side, his memorial on the other, representing the nation's gratitude and remembrance. That combination lasted until 2008, when the U.S. Mint introduced new designs to celebrate Lincoln's bicentennial in 2009. But the 1970s coin stands at the crossroads of old and new, the last era of pure copper pennies before the economic changes of the 1980s, and the end of a time when minting technology still allowed such dramatic errors to slip through. It's a reminder that even in a highly controlled system, imperfection can create beauty and value. Collectors often say that coins like this represent human history in metal form, tiny time capsules that carry the marks of the era they were born in. When you hold a 1970s penny in your hand, you're touching a piece of that history. You can feel the texture of the copper, see the shadows of Lincoln's profile, and imagine how many hands it might have passed through over the decades. It might have been used to by a stick of gum in 1971, sat in a jar on someone's kitchen counter in the 1980s, and then discovered by a collector half a century later. Each coin has a journey, and the rare ones carry stories that can outlive their owners. Every coin tells a story, but some coins whisper a mystery that no one can fully explain. The 1970s penny is one of those coins. Collectors spend years studying the tiniest details to confirm if what they hold is just another 1-cent piece or one of the rarest treasures in American numismatic history. To the naked eye, almost every 1970s penny looks identical. The same copper tone, the same portrait of Lincoln, the same date and mint mark. But under magnification, under the right light, magic begins to appear: doubled numbers, unusual spacing, and other microscopic clues that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. The hunt for these details has become an obsession for coin hunters worldwide, each one dreaming of finding that one coin that could change their lives forever. To identify a rare 1970s penny, collectors first look at the date and the word Liberty. On the double die obverse variety, Both show strong doubling. This doubling is not just a shadow or a trick of the light. It's actual overlapping impressions in the metal. On a genuine example, the letters in Liberty almost appear to have been struck twice, with noticeable separation between the two impressions. The numbers in the date, especially the 9 and the 0, look thicker, with a faint echoing outline beside them. Even the word "In God We Trust" can show minor signs of doubling. These features make the coin instantly recognizable once you know what to look for. But because counterfeiters have tried to replicate this variety, professional grading and authentication are essential. That's why collectors always send such coins to trusted grading companies like PCGS or NGC before selling or buying them. The grading process for coins is a detailed and scientific procedure. Coins are evaluated under controlled lighting, using magnification tools that reveal every tiny imperfection. Graders look at factors like strike quality, surface condition, color, and luster. For the 1970s penny, even the smallest scratch can affect its value. The grading scale used by professionals ranges from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a flawless, perfect coin. A 1970s penny graded MS60, mint state 60, might be worth a few $100s if it's the double die variety. But the same coin graded MS67 or higher could be worth tens of thousands, or even more if it's a proof strike. Proof coins, because of their special mirror finish and sharp details, can reach astronomical prices when they feature a major error like doubling. Proof coins from 1970 are particularly fascinating because they were not meant for circulation. They were carefully struck for collectors, using polished dies and blanks to create stunning mirror-like surfaces. The San Francisco Mint produced over 2.6 million proofs since that year, but only a very small portion were the small date variety. The easiest way to tell the difference between a large date and a small date 1970s penny is by looking at the 7 in the date. On the small date, the top of the 7 is level with the top of the 0, while on the large date, the 7 sits slightly lower. Additionally, the 9 on the small date variety appears more pointed and delicate, whereas on the large date it's thicker and more rounded. To most people, these are meaningless differences. But to collectors, they are everything. They mean rarity, exclusivity, and value. Over the decades, collectors and investors have watched the price of rare 1970s coins climb steadily. In the 1980s, when coin collecting became a major hobby in the United States, these coins were already worth hundreds of dollars. By the 1990s, they were selling for thousands. And in the 2000s, as online auctions like eBay brought global attention to rare coins, their value exploded even further. The most pristine examples, preserved in original mint condition for over half a century, began to fetch prices that few could have imagined when they were first struck. At major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers, bidding wars erupted over the finest examples of the 1970s double die obverse penny. Prices crossed $10,000, then $20,000, then $50,000. One exceptionally rare specimen sold for over $100,000 in near-perfect proof condition. Another coin, reportedly with an extraordinary level of doubling and historical significance, became the stuff of legend, rumored to be valued at an unbelievable $205 million. While many experts debate whether that number reflects an actual market transaction or symbolic valuation, there's no denying that this coin has achieved mythical status in the numismatic world. But what drives such insane prices for a coin that literally says 1 cent on the back? It's not just the metal, and it's not just rarity. It's psychology. Human beings are drawn to stories, to mysteries, and to the idea of hidden treasure. The 1970s penny embodies all of that. It's a reminder that something small and ordinary can hold unimaginable value. It represents luck, discovery, and the thrill of the hunt. The same feeling that made people dig for gold in the 1800s now drives collectors to search through jars of change, hoping to find a rare error coin. Every coin hunter dreams of the moment they open their palm, see that tiny doubling on the date, and realize they've found a piece of history worth a fortune. The world of coin collecting, or numismatics, operates on a delicate balance between passion and investment. Some collectors buy coins purely out of love for history and design, while others treat them as assets that appreciate over time. For the 1970s penny, both groups find something to admire. The artistry of Brenner's and Gasparo's designs, the copper glow that time deepens into a rich brown patina, and the connection to Abraham Lincoln's legacy all add to the coin's emotional appeal. But when that emotional connection meets rarity, prices go through the roof. It's the perfect storm of beauty and scarcity. When a 1970s penny surfaces in the market, the first question every collector asks is about authenticity. Counterfeits have become more sophisticated over the years, with scammers using laser etching or metal manipulation to fake doubling. However, genuine 1970s double-die obverse coins have unique characteristics that are almost impossible to replicate perfectly. The doubling on the date has a very specific pattern, not just offset but also layered in a certain direction due to how the die shifted during production. Experts can immediately spot the difference. For collectors, owning a genuine example is like holding a piece of minting history, a fingerprint of the machinery itself. Beyond authenticity, the condition of the coin is everything. A single scratch, fingerprint, or discoloration can reduce value dramatically. That's why professional storage and handling are so important. Collectors keep their coins in airtight holders, often using gloves when touching them to prevent skin oils from dulling the shine. Environmental factors, like humidity and temperature, also play a role. Copper is a reactive metal. It can tone beautifully over time, developing shades of red, brown, or even violet, but it can also corrode if exposed to moisture. A fully red 1970s penny, meaning its copper color has stayed vibrant and original, is considered far more desirable than one that has darkened or spotted. The grading labels from PCGS and NGC even specify color designations: RD for red, RB for red-brown, and BN for brown. A 1970s double-die obverse graded MS67RD could fetch many times more than the same coin graded MS65RB. One of the most interesting aspects of the 1970s penny's value is how it has survived the test of time. While other rare coins sometimes lose attention as new discoveries are made, this one has only become more famous. Social media, YouTube videos, and online forums have made it a viral sensation. People share stories about finding one in their grandparents' change jars, or spotting one by accident in a roll of pennies. Some even dedicate entire channels to coin hunting, streaming live as they go through rolls of cents, hoping to find the magical 1970s double-die obverse. The mystique around it has grown to such a level that it's now part of pop culture. Even people who don't know anything about coins have heard of the 1970s penny rumored to be worth hundreds of millions. The story of how these coins were created adds another layer of intrigue. In 1970, the San Francisco Mint was primarily responsible for producing proof coins and smaller runs of circulation strikes. The mint used specially prepared dies to strike proofs, which were then hand-polished and handled with care. However, during this process, a few dies were accidentally misaligned or received multiple hub impressions, resulting in the double design. Because the proof coins were struck multiple times to ensure detail sharpness, any doubling on the die became even more noticeable on the final coin. These errors weren't immediately detected, and a small number of proof sets containing these rare coins were distributed before the mistake was discovered. Once collectors found out, the hunt was on. By then, it was too late to recall them. The rare coins were already out in the world, Some historians and numismatists have suggested that there might have been internal confusion at the mint during this time. The late 1960s and early 1970s saw several changes in minting technology, staff transitions, and shifts in production priorities due to economic pressures and the Vietnam War. As a result, quality control occasionally slipped, allowing fascinating errors like the 1970s double die to escape into circulation. These errors, unintended as they were, have become legends precisely because they slipped through the cracks of an otherwise precise system. For those lucky enough to find one today, the experience is almost surreal. Imagine digging through a handful of change, spotting a penny that looks a little odd, then realizing you might be holding something worth more than a mansion. That's not just a fantasy. It has actually happened. Stories circulate every few years of people who found ultra-rare coins in the most ordinary places, inside an old collection, in a box of childhood savings, or at flea markets where sellers had no idea of the treasure they were offering for a few cents. These modern treasure hunts keep the hobby alive and remind everyone that history can hide in the smallest, most unexpected corners. The market value of the 1970s penny is dynamic. It fluctuates depending on demand, publicity, and the overall economy. When interest in rare coins spikes, often driven by viral stories or high-profile auction sales, prices can soar. Then, during quieter periods, they might stabilize. However, unlike modern speculative assets, rare coins tend to retain intrinsic value because they are tangible, historical, and finite. There will never be more original 1970s double-die pennies. Their supply is fixed forever, and as time passes, some are lost, damaged, or locked away in permanent collections, making surviving examples even rarer. For the average person, it's hard to believe that such a tiny copper disc could be worth so much. But the truth is, value is often about perception and story. The 1970s penny carries both in abundance, a story of human error, artistic beauty, and luck so rare that it transcends its humble origins. To collectors, it's not just a coin, it's a symbol of discovery and the pursuit of perfection. To historians, it's a piece of America's industrial and artistic heritage. And to dreamers, it's proof that miracles can hide in plain sight. To truly understand the value of the 1970s penny, it helps to compare it with other famous rare coins. Throughout history, there have been only a handful of coins that reached legendary status, both in value and reputation. Each one tells a different story, sometimes of accidents, sometimes of limited production, and sometimes of political or historical events that made them special. The 1943 copper penny, for example, is one of the most famous coins in the world. During World War II, the United States mint switched from copper to zinc-coated steel to save copper for ammunition and war supplies. However, a few leftover copper planchets from 1942 accidentally got struck with 1943 dies, producing what became known as the 1943 copper cent. Only about 40 genuine examples are known today, and each one is worth hundreds of thousands, sometimes over $1 million. It's a similar story of rarity born from error, just like the 1970s penny. Then, there's the 1955 double-die Lincoln cent, another major piece in the puzzle of American coin history. That coin, too, features dramatic doubling on the obverse, most visible in the words liberty and I in God we trust. It was an error that escaped into circulation before anyone at the mint realized. In that case, tens of thousands of coins were released before being stopped, but their dramatic appearance made them instantly recognizable and collectible. Even now, the 1955 double die is one of the most beloved coins among collectors, often serving as a starting point for people who later learn about other varieties like the 1970s. But the 1970s, with its San Francisco mint mark, its connection to the Proof series, and its limited mintage, takes rarity and mystery to another level. It's not just an error, it's an error born from perfection, from the proof-making process itself, which was supposed to be flawless. That contradiction fascinates collectors endlessly. When you compare the 1970s penny to other major U.S. coins, like the 1909 SVB cent, the 1914 D Lincoln cent, or the 1969 double die, you start to see why this coin stands out. The 1909 SVB, for example, was the first year of the Lincoln cent series, and its limited production makes it highly desirable. The 1914 D is scarce because of a low mintage and regional distribution. But the 1970s double die combines rarity, beauty, and a sense of mystery. It wasn't supposed to exist, yet it does. It's like a ghost minted into copper. That's why collectors around the world are fascinated not only by its design, but by the sheer improbability of its creation. Authenticating a coin like this requires more than just a good eye. The process often involves advanced equipment, microscopic photography, and reference comparisons with verified examples. Professional graders use tools that measure die characteristics, tiny markers left by polishing, die cracks, or specific metal flow lines that identify which die struck the coin. For instance, genuine 1970s double die coins have known die markers on both obverse and reverse sides, such as small die scratches near Lincoln's bust or minute details in the lettering that only appear on authentic examples. Every coin has its own fingerprint, and graders build vast databases of known varieties so that counterfeit detection becomes nearly foolproof. Some collectors also use digital microscopes to photograph their coins and compare them with high-resolution images from grading agencies. The tiniest mismatch can expose a fake immediately. For collectors who suspect they might have found a valuable 1970s penny, there's a clear path to authentication. First, they examine the coin under strong magnification, at least 10x, to look for doubling, especially in the date and liberty. Then, if the coin appears genuine, they weigh it. A real 1970s copper penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. Anything significantly lighter or heavier could indicate tampering or incorrect metal composition. Next, they check for color and surface consistency. Genuine coins from 1970 often have a rich copper tone that may have aged to red-brown, whereas counterfeits sometimes look unnaturally bright or dull. Once these basic checks are done, sending it to a professional grading service is essential. It's the only way to secure an official certification, which not only confirms authenticity but also assigns a marketable grade. That grade determines everything, from the coin's price range to its desirability among investors. Preservation is another key aspect of maintaining the coin's value. A coin that has survived 50 years in pristine condition deserves care worthy of a museum artifact. Collectors use acid-free holders, non-PVC flips, and temperature-controlled storage environments. Even simple precautions, like handling coins only by the edges or wearing cotton gloves, can prevent irreversible damage. Fingerprints, once left on copper, can etch into the surface permanently, creating dark spots that lower grade and value. Collectors often joke that a single careless touch can wipe hundreds or even thousands of dollars off a coin's worth. Over time, copper reacts with air, developing natural toning, sometimes golden, sometimes deep red. Properly toned coins can actually increase in value because they develop a unique, attractive look, but uncontrolled oxidation or corrosion will ruin them. Serious collectors often use silica gel or inert gas containers to keep humidity near zero. The science behind coin errors, like the double die, is fascinating in itself. In the minting process, a die is like a stamp that imprints the coin's design onto a blank piece of metal called a planchet. In 1970, dies were made through a multi-step hubbing process. Each hubbing strike imprinted the design onto the die. If the die shifted slightly between strikes, the result was a doubled image. That's what happened in the case of the 1970s penny. The doubling isn't on the coin itself, it's in the die used to make the coin. So every coin struck from that die shows the same doubling. This kind of doubling is different from mechanical or machine doubling, which happens when the die bounces during striking, creating flat, shelf-like distortions. Genuine doubled dies, like the 1970s, show rounded, fully formed doubling, true duplication of design elements. It's the difference between a shadow and a second image, and collectors can tell them apart instantly. The art and science of error coins go hand in hand. Minting is supposed to be a perfect industrial process. Thousands of coins per minute, each one identical. But perfection is elusive. When a tiny misalignment or pressure variation occurs, magic happens. A small error transforms into a unique collectible, and suddenly, that one coin becomes more valuable than 1,000 flawless ones. There's a poetic irony in that idea, imperfection creating perfection in value. The 1970s penny captures that perfectly. It's a coin born from mistake but immortalized for that very reason. The $205 million valuation often quoted for a unique 1970s specimen might sound exaggerated to most people, and realistically, it's symbolic, representing the coin's mythic status rather than a confirmed market transaction. Yet, this figure has taken on a life of its own. Some stories suggest that a particular proof example with a deep cameo finish, graded at a nearly impossible PR70, was sold or insured for that amount by a private collector or institution. Whether the number is literal or metaphorical, it shows how value in the numismatic world is not just about metal but meaning. Collectors assign emotional, historical, and symbolic worth to objects. To them, that 1 cent is not a piece of copper, it's a tangible link to history, a masterpiece of chance, and a symbol of rarity that might never be repeated. It's similar to how a painting by a long-dead artist might sell for hundreds of millions, not because of the paint or canvas, but because of the story, the genius, and the irreplaceable nature of the piece. The 1970s penny functions in the same way. It's a relic of time, frozen in metal, impossible to duplicate, and shrouded in mystery. Every collector wants to own it, even if just for a moment. Owning such a coin isn't just a financial investment, it's a connection to a lineage of discovery and human curiosity that spans generations. Psychologically, this kind of collecting taps into a deep human instinct, the desire to find meaning and significance in the ordinary. It's the same instinct that drives people to search for fossils, ancient artifacts, or hidden treasure. When someone finds a rare coin, it feels like uncovering a secret that time forgot. The 1970s penny represents that feeling better than almost any other coin. Its story mixes history, luck, and art in equal measure. For many collectors, just the possibility that such a coin could exist in their pocket change makes life a little more magical. The economics behind its value are also worth understanding. Rare coins operate in a market that combines collector passion with investment strategy. Supply is finite, demand is emotional, and history guarantees relevance. When a coin like the 1970s becomes legendary, it attracts not only hobbyists but serious investors looking for long-term tangible assets. High-end auction houses cater to this niche audience, where million-dollar bids are not unusual. In such an environment, perceived rarity can push values beyond rational boundaries. The coin becomes a status symbol, a conversation piece, a trophy of knowledge and luck. Owning it says, "I understand something others don't. I possess a fragment of history no one else can claim." Even the grading companies play a role in shaping the market psychology. When PCGS or NGC labels a coin with a grade like PR70 Deep Cameo or MS68 Red Double Die Outverse, it becomes a certified masterpiece. That small plastic holder transforms the coin from metal to treasure. Collectors trust those slabs as proof of authenticity, and the labels themselves can double or triple value overnight. The power of grading is immense. 1 point difference on the 70-point scale can mean a jump from $10,000 to $50,000, or from $50,000 to $250,000. That's why collectors chase perfection so relentlessly. And in the world of pennies, few coins approach perfection like the top-graded 1970s varieties. The global fascination with such coins also points to something deeper about human culture. Around the world, people have different currencies, but coins share a universal appeal. They are miniature works of art, historical records, and symbols of national identity. When a rare coin captures the imagination of millions, it transcends borders. The 1970s penny, though American by birth, has fans in every corner of the world, collectors in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East who see it as the ultimate prize in numismatics. The fact that it's just 1 cent adds to the paradox. It's the smallest denomination, the humblest piece of money, yet it holds a value greater than entire vaults of cash. That irony fascinates everyone who hears the story. As decades pass, coins like the 1970s only grow rarer. Time has a way of filtering history, letting only the most exceptional pieces survive. Some of these coins have already been lost, melted down, damaged, or misplaced forever. Others sit quietly in safety deposit boxes, unseen for years, waiting for the next generation of collectors to rediscover them. Every time one appears at auction, it reignites global curiosity. News outlets publish stories, YouTube channels make videos, and new collectors are inspired to start searching their own change. It becomes a cycle of fascination that keeps the legend alive. As collectors began to realize the importance of the 1970s small date penny, prices in coin shows and auctions started to skyrocket. In the early 1980s, a collector could find one for just a few dollars if lucky enough to spot it in circulation. But as the internet age came, with platforms like eBay, heritage auctions, and other major coin dealers, information spread rapidly, and collectors began to hunt these varieties aggressively. This caused prices to climb, from a few dollars to hundreds, then thousands, and eventually into 5 and 6 figures for high-grade examples. One of the most famous stories in the coin world involves a man who found a 1970s penny in his father's old coin jar, sent it to be graded, and later discovered it was the rare small-date double-die obverse variety. He had no idea that this coin, which had been sitting for decades, was worth a small fortune. After authentication, that coin sold for over $20,000. Stories like these keep collectors motivated, always hoping that one day they might uncover the next million-dollar coin hiding in plain sight. To understand why the 1970s penny has such immense fascination, you have to appreciate the combination of factors that make a coin valuable. First is rarity. Only a limited number of true small date or double die coins exist, and even fewer remain in mint condition. Second is condition. The better preserved the coin, the more collectors want it. Third is historical appeal. A coin that tells a story about America's past, especially one that marks a transition or era in minting, becomes more than metal. It becomes a time capsule. The coin's design itself is part of the magic. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln is not just a design. It's an artistic statement that captures Lincoln's calm strength and wisdom. The back of the coin, showing the Lincoln Memorial, reminds everyone of the nation's unity and enduring democratic ideals. When you hold a 1970s penny in your hand, you are holding a piece of a story that stretches from 1909 all the way to modern-day America. Over time, collectors and experts have debated whether the 1970s penny could reach astronomical values. Some claim that unique varieties or minting errors could theoretically reach prices of hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars, if sold at the right time to the right buyer. While not all experts agree on exact numbers, one thing is certain: coins with unique characteristics, pristine condition, and strong demand have already sold for jaw-dropping prices. In fact, a few rare error coins from 1970 have been known to sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars in private sales. These coins were struck on the wrong metal planchets, or had doubled dies so dramatic that even the naked eye could see them. Imagine finding one of those in your change. A simple penny turning into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery worth more than most cars or even houses. That's the dream of every coin hunter. The 1970s Pennies' incredible legend continues to grow because of these possibilities. Some collectors believe that there might be special proof coins out there, test strikes or experimental mintings, that have yet to surface. If such coins ever appear, their values could easily cross into tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. The coin community thrives on such mysteries. Every new discovery reignites interest, making the hunt for the next great penny even more thrilling. When it comes to the coin's physical details, accuracy matters. The standard 1970s penny weighs approximately 3.11 grams, is 19 millimeters in diameter, and made primarily of copper with a small percentage of zinc. It features the familiar Lincoln portrait on the obverse, with the date 1970 and the S mint marked just below the right side of Lincoln's shoulder. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, with the denomination 1 cent below and United States of America around the top. The phrase, E pluribus unum, rests above the monument, a reminder of the country's unity through diversity. For collectors, even the smallest difference in how the date looks can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth tens of thousands, or more. On the small date variety, the 7 in 1970 has a higher curve, and the top of the 7 is level with a 9 and 0. On the large date, the 7 dips slightly lower. Tiny details, but monumental in value. In high-grade proof condition, the 1970s small date coin can sell for massive sums. PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, two of the world's leading coin grading companies, have authenticated some specimens that achieved near-perfect grades, and collectors paid accordingly. Coins graded PR67 or PR68 can easily reach tens of thousands of dollars, while those that show remarkable preservation or exceptional visual appeal can fetch even more. The current coin market fluctuates, but rare varieties like these often transcend market trends. Even when gold or silver prices fall, truly rare numismatic treasures hold their value or even increase. The 1970s penny, especially its rarest versions, has proven to be one of those resilient investments that attract both serious investors and passionate hobbyists. Now, let's talk about the astronomical figure that captures everyone's imagination: the mythic $205 million value often cited in viral posts and coin forums. While this number may sound unbelievable, it represents the potential worth of a unique or one-of-a-kind specimen, perhaps a 1970s penny with a remarkable minting error, flawless condition, or an undiscovered variation that numismatists have never seen. Think of it as the Holy Grail coin, one that could rewrite record books if ever authenticated. There have been precedents for such explosive price growth in the coin world. The 1794 flowing hair silver dollar sold for over $10 million, and the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle gold coin broke records at $18.9 million. These examples show that when rarity, history, and desire collide, even a tiny piece of metal can command incredible value. So, when people talk about a 1970s penny being worth $205 million, they are imagining a once-in-a-century event, the discovery of a coin that changes numismatic history forever. Still, even without mythical valuations, real 1970s pennies are incredibly collectible. Whether you have one in a coin album or find one in change, it's worth examining carefully. The coin could be your ticket to an unexpected fortune. And even if it's not, it's still part of a fascinating chapter in America's monetary story. Collectors today use magnifying glasses, microscopes, and digital photography to identify the tiniest of differences on their coins. Many online communities and YouTube channels are dedicated to analyzing these variations in incredible detail, comparing the slope of numbers, the sharpness of letters, and the placement of the mint mark. The hunt for the perfect 1970s penny is alive and stronger than ever, and it's growing every year as new generations join the hobby. Even the sound of these coins clinking in a jar evokes nostalgia. Each penny represents an era when copper was cheap, craftsmanship was detailed, and small mistakes could create treasures. For some people, coin collecting isn't just about money, it's about connection. It's about preserving something tangible in an increasingly digital world. The 1970s penny reminds us that value isn't always about material wealth. Sometimes, it's about the stories that live inside the smallest objects. So, when someone says a penny can be worth millions, they're not just speaking about metal or numbers. They're talking about hope, the hope that an overlooked object might hold extraordinary worth, that a forgotten coin might bring fame or fortune, or that history might still have secrets to share. And that's what makes the legend of the 1970s penny eternal. Even as time passes, the fascination with the 1970s penny refuses to fade. Every few months, a new rumor circulates online that someone in the Midwest found a 1970s penny with a strange shine, that another collector spotted a proof with a microscopic minting anomaly, or that a retired mint employee revealed a story about an ultra-rare test strike that never officially entered circulation. Each news story adds another layer to the myth, another reason for collectors to look closer at every coin they handle. Part of what makes this hobby so endlessly captivating is that it blurs the line between ordinary and extraordinary. Think about it. Something that costs a single cent could, under the right circumstances, be worth a life-changing sum. That idea is what fuels millions of collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday dreamers around the world. They know that somewhere, hidden among billions of common coins, there might still be that one special penny. To truly appreciate this, imagine the long journey of one coin. Minted in San Francisco in 1970, fresh copper luster gleaming, it rolls off the press and into a bag marked for distribution. It might have ended up in a grocery store till, a bus fare box, or a child's piggy bank. Maybe it traveled across the country in someone's pocket, forgotten in a drawer, or stored away for decades in an old coffee can. Over time, its surface dulls, fingerprints mark it, but its story never fades. And then, 50 years later, someone empties that old jar, notices something odd about the date, and decides to take a closer look. That's how legends are born. Numismatics, the study and collection of coins, is not just about money. It's about discovery. Every coin is a historical artifact, a silent witness to the time it was created. The 1970s penny tells the story of America in transition, the Vietnam era, shifting politics, changing technology, and the evolution of the U.S. Mint itself. When you hold this coin, you're holding the craftsmanship of another age, a small circle of history that connects the past and present. Many collectors say that once you start paying attention to details, you never look at pocket change the same way again. You start to notice everything: the date, the texture, the way light catches the metal. You begin to realize that coins are more than currency. They are stories struck in copper and steel. And the 1970s penny stands at the center of that revelation, a bridge between the ordinary and the miraculous. Over the years, major coin grading companies have played a crucial role in keeping the 1970s legend alive. Each time a new example surfaces, it's carefully authenticated, examined under magnification, and certified for its originality. These institutions, PCGS, NGC, Annex, serve as the gatekeepers of truth in a world where myths run wild. Their records prove that authentic 1970s small date-proof pennies in pristine condition have achieved sales prices that shock even seasoned collectors. One particularly stunning coin, graded PR69 Deep Cameo, reportedly changed hands for over $25,000. And that's not even the highest possible value. Experts speculate that a flawless PR70 coin, if ever discovered, could bring prices surpassing $200,000, maybe more if bidding becomes competitive. But the true masterpiece, the hypothetical one-of-a-kind specimen with a unique minting flaw or a previously unknown variety, is where that mind-blowing $205 million figure originates. That number represents the dream, the ultimate reward for the rarest find in American coinage. You might think that's exaggerated, but history shows that every great discovery starts with disbelief. People once thought number 1913 Liberty nickel existed until 5 surfaced. They thought number 1933 Double Eagle could be legally owned until one was auctioned for millions. They thought the 1974 aluminum cent was lost forever until it appeared decades later in a private collection. If those stories can happen, then perhaps one day, the ultimate 1970s penny will too. And if that day ever comes, if the perfect coin is found, the world of collecting will never be the same. News outlets will headline it, museums will compete to display it, and its finder will become a legend overnight. Imagine being that person, the one who turned a penny into generational wealth, who proved that hidden treasure still exists in the modern age. But beyond the wealth, there's something deeper, something that resonates with everyone who's ever dreamed big. The story of the 1970s penny is a reminder that greatness can hide in the smallest of things. That patience, curiosity, and attention to detail can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. It's a story about hope, about the belief that maybe, just maybe, something as small as a penny can change your life. In the world of collecting, hope is everything. It's what keeps people searching through old boxes, visiting coin shows, and examining each date under magnification. It's what turns an old hobby into a lifelong passion. And every time someone picks up a 1970s penny and looks closely, that same spark of wonder lights up again. Even now, after decades, the mystery endures. Somewhere out there, maybe in an attic, a garage, or an old wallet tucked away in a forgotten drawer, lies a coin waiting to be rediscovered. It could be the next big story, maybe even the coin that breaks the all-time record. Until that day, collectors will keep searching, and the legend of the 1970s penny will continue to grow. And perhaps that's the real value of this coin. Not just its metal content or market price, but the inspiration it gives. It teaches patience, attention, and respect for history. It teaches us to look closer, to question what we overlook, and to believe that extraordinary things can still be found in unexpected places. When you hold a penny from 1970 with that little S under the date, you're not just holding copper. You're holding 50-plus years of mystery, craftsmanship, and human curiosity. You're holding a reminder that value isn't always visible. Sometimes, it's hidden just beneath the surface, waiting for someone to notice. So, if you ever come across a 1970s penny, don't ignore it. Don't toss it back into the change jar. Take a closer look. Because who knows? That one coin might be the key to rewriting your story. And even if it's not the $1 million one, even if it's just an ordinary coin, you'll have still connected with something larger, a piece of American history, a moment frozen in time, and a symbol of endless possibility. That's the beauty of the 1970s penny. That's why it's more than just money. It's a mystery. It's a dream. It's a promise that hidden treasures still exist, and that sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones we overlook every day. So, keep searching, keep learning, and keep believing. Because maybe, just maybe, the next legendary 1970s penny is already in your pocket, waiting for you to discover it. And when you do, remember this moment, remember this story, and remember that the smallest spark can light the biggest fire. Because in the world of coins, legends aren't found, they're rediscovered. And this, my friends, is the timeless legend of the 1970s penny. A coin that turned history, mystery, and hope into one shining symbol of how greatness can begin with just one cent.